Alright, the next thing I want to show is pulling a bearing off a map, and a couple popular methods for doing that. The first one is an extremely popular method, most widely known, most widely taught, and in my experience the least useful, and I'll show you why later. And that is the orient the map to north method. And to illustrate, what I did is I put a point on the map. I want to pretend that I'm here on the road, and then I want to get to this campground. And I don't know what the trail are like, so we decided we're just going to bushwhack, pull that bearing off to get us there. So how do we find out what that bearing is? With the orient the map to north method, what you do obviously is you orient your map to north first. You can do that either way. I did before, and I'm going to I just set it to north, so I'll just go ahead and use the edge. I'll rotate the map until I box the needle. Okay, my map is to north. Now I don't touch the map. I got to keep it still. Okay, and then what I do is go line the edge of my compass up with my intended direction of travel. And I am here and I'm going there. So I want my direction of travel arrow pointing in that direction. Don't want it this way because I'm not moving that way. I want it direction of travel going where I intend to go. Then what you do is box the needle. Notice that the key feature here is that I'm referencing what the magnetic needle is doing. So I box the needle, and there we go. I read my bearing of approximately 41 degrees. Then you go in the field, you box the needle, shoot the bearing, and you go. That's one method to do it. And actually, this method, and I'll go ahead and show you the two real key reasons why I don't like this method. Okay, so I mentioned not liking the orient the map method, and this is why I'm going to show you, because I happened to be on a nice sturdy log that wasn't moving, and now I'm going to try to do this in the field. So what I do is I got to go ahead and orient the map again. I'm just going to change this. So I line up my meridians to my magnetic lines. I turn until I box the needle. Okay, now my map is oriented to the landscape, right? And obviously you've seen that the map already moved on me, so I got to do it again. Okay, now I'm oriented. Alright, so I got the map, trying to hold it still. Okay, then I'm going to lay my compass on here. Try to get that lined up. Okay, now while I'm holding all those together, I got to try and spin this bezel. And there we go. Now I can get my bearing, in which as you can tell, since I'm relying on what the magnetic needle is doing and the exact positioning of the paper, anytime I go like this, it's going to mess up my bearing. And we're talking about something that, you know, we want to be as accurate as possible, because if you've done enough of this, you know there's enough variation in sighting and picking landmarks. We don't have to introduce another source of error that can be easily eliminated in another method that I'll show you later. This can actually be done slightly easier with the military style compass, and I'll show you why. Because you actually orient your map to north. There you go. And the thing that makes this slightly easier is that when you lay it up there, it'll allow you to directly read the bearing off the index line. But still, the method that I want to show later, this compass doesn't have the features built in to be able to do that. I mean, I love this compass. I would love to use the compass, but when you see the other method, you'll see why that's is not as useful as what I'm going to show. So next I'll move on to the other reason why I don't like the orient the map method. Alright, next I want to show why I don't like the orient the map method, just for the simple task of pulling a bearing off the map. And for this example, now I'm using my dining room table. I'm at home. I want to plan ahead a little bit. I want to pull a couple bearings off so that it saves me some time in the field, or I'll plan a route ahead of time. So what I do is I put my map down on my table. Okay, we're going to go ahead and orient the map, and you already seen how we would pull a bearing off it. So I'm not going to go ahead and do that. But what I want you to notice is, okay, look where my magnetic needle is pointing. I go to move it. See the movement? Now I've already shown that this method is dependent on the accuracy of where that magnetic needle is pointing. I mean, And this is common with almost any flat surface that you get. My dining room table happens to have a metal frame underneath it. That's obviously what's screwing it up. So you figure, well, I'll just go plant on my countertop instead. I've tried that method. There's usually screws or hardware in your countertop. So you move on to the living room floor. There's nails and screws in the subfloor. Anything pretty much will screw up where that thing is pointing. So if you're not confident and if that needle's pointing in the right direction, then your bearings are going to mean absolutely nothing to you. And even if you are very confident in your current location, what is north, and you say, okay, I know this is pointing right. Well, it's easy to get working down in this section of the map where you know it's pointing right, and then all of a sudden move over here, try to take one, and it's different. So this is a whole lot more trouble than it's really worth, and hopefully you'll see that when I show you the style that I use for pulling the bearings off the map. Okay, now we're going to look at a method that I use and teach for doing this. Now, orienting your map is an excellent thing for relating to terrain, and I'm not advocating not to do that. You should definitely do that. All I'm saying that the 1, 2, 3, 5 degree critical accuracy that it takes to pull a bearing off the map, it's not necessary to orient your map to do that. And all you simply do is, instead of trying to use the magnetic needle, we're just going to use the built-in protractor in the compass. What you do is you align, again, the edge of your compass along your intended direction of travel. Arrow pointing the way you want to go. And then all you do is look at the meridian lines in your capsule and align those with the north-south lines that we drew on our map. So I'm just going to spin this until those are aligned. Right there. It's done. Getting the same bearing as if I would have oriented my map. And the reason this works is because if you look at this, right here, this is my north-south, magnetic north-south line. This is my direction of travel. This is creating an angle right here. Okay? That angle does not change no matter what I do to the paper. I can spin it this way, that way, flip it upside down, and geometry does not change. That angle is still the same. I can just as easily pull up one of these old school protractors that you haven't seen since, grade school, and throw it up there and simply measure that angle. And guess what? I'm getting the same thing I got on my compass. It's really obvious if I show you that I am measuring with this line and this meridian line. I am measuring those two exact lines. Obviously the angles just are the same between no matter which meridian line I measure, but in this particular case I'm measuring those exact two, and that's it. Now that's highly beneficial, like I said, because I can turn my map this way, I can turn my map that way. It's still giving me the same answer. I can also have some metal influence on my needle if I'm playing on my table, and it doesn't matter one bit because I'm not using the magnetic needle at all. The only time I go to use it is when I go to then pull the compass off the paper and point the bearing. But as far as for planning and for rotating, all I'm doing is measuring with the protractor. Now, in the field example, you're in the field. This is why this method is a little bit easier, is because I just lay this down like this, and I don't have to worry so much about going like this or that with the paper, and then I rotate those, and I can adjust a little bit and rotate a little bit more, and there you go. Works like this. Works going like this. I don't see any reason not to use this method over orienting the map. The only tricky part is, and it's really not that tricky, is that when I align the meridian lines in my capsule with the north-south lines, I've got to make sure that the doghouse, which represents north, is pointing north on the map. If you happen to spin it in the wrong direction, and it's pointing south, it'll put you in a prestigious club known as the 180 degree club. There's a lot of members. Almost everybody's joined it. But obviously, when you see it, you realize it doesn't make sense. It'll give your bearing 180 degrees off. So that's the only real trick to remember in this method, is that that dog house has got to be pointing north. And it's not really that big of a deal. There are way too many advantages to this method compared to the orient the map method.